Perspective of opinion breeds innovation, while the promotion of inclusion and diversity brings about fundamental change, and incorporating individuals with disabilities in such discussions surrounding lifestyle, employment, and other aspects of our societal life can only be a good thing. Dylan M. Rafferty is the head of accessibility, strategy, and partnerships for See Here, a digital innovation company who's developed a new file format which embeds sound directly into an image. He joined me this week to have a wide ranging and extensive discussion surrounding accessibility and diversity, and whether he thinks people with disabilities can ultimately be included in all aspects of our society. I'm Kevin McShann. Let's have this conversation. Hey, Dylan, I want to take a few minutes and welcome you to the program, and we're excited to talk to you this morning about accessibility and diversity. So great to see you this morning, and thanks for being here.
Thank you. I appreciate it. It's a privilege to be here.
Dylan, when we look at employment inclusion and equality and equity, I'm wondering your thoughts on the matter, because I always tell people that inclusion is the gateway to independence. So I'll get this to start off by telling me your thoughts on that very sentiment.
Well, we're celebrating next month, October, National Disability Employment Awareness Month. And, it's the 75th anniversary of that. For me personally, I'm a person that is deaf in the right ear and partially deaf with a hearing aid in the left ear. I actually have my hearing aid here. And I have spinal back and neck fusions, so disabilities. But people have a variety of disabilities. And, for me, in different employment settings, I used to work at for example, in a noisy environment in a sporting facility, fitness facility, and they would put me in the front. But what was great about that position was people got to see a person like me with hearing difficulties and physical disabilities, where I had to move 360 angle. And while hearing people in a noisy environment, while greeting them, handling with their membership stuff, but I was still able to manage that on an 8-hour shift. So think about that. The idea of inclusion in this, to your question, is really about giving people with disabilities the opportunities to independence. People with disabilities, as they age, no matter what age, they have a wide range of abilities. For my ability, I'm able to block out sounds around me, and I'm able to still implement certain skills and still able to interact with my members when I was working at Lifetime Fitness. But other people, they have passions and desires to work in sports. Some like to be sport attendants. Some like to be executives for different organizations. That some office clerks, or some like to be working in data analytics. They actually like numbers. Some actually like to build apps, those with autism. So the idea is that employment is, you say inclusion, yes, people with disabilities want to be included in settings where they are given opportunities that they would otherwise not be given opportunities to. And employment is one of those key aspects. But I also believe employment leads to other opportunities. It gives them housing, access to housing, gives them access to other services they may not otherwise get. Hopefully that answers your question.
Absolutely. And I'm also wondering if you could tell me, what do you think, from a more broad sense, what do you think inclusion look like in all sectors of our societal life for people with disabilities?
That's a good question. So in different sectors, I'm involved in different sectors, and I'm constantly looking at, like last night I looked at an image of a family, and but is in a high profile setting. And we often talk about the importance of embracing identity and importance of who you're associated with and so forth, and but also embracing the idea of who who your family is, and and so forth. But I always say that inclusion is in arts, for example, arts entertainment, for example, it's like the idea of film and TV. There's an idea of actors and people with disabilities, they want to be included in films. And the idea that, I'm sorry, I'm trying to get a blank because I'm thinking of the film, the peanut butter film with Zach, I think it's Scott Sagan, with Shia LaBeouf. And that was a key film because it talks about a key player, a key role where a supporting role player that actually supports a film. Whereas other films, there are persons that without disabilities playing actors that are supposed to be people with disabilities. So people often play as persons with disabilities, but they're not actual persons with disabilities. And so the idea is really that in any sector, people with disabilities need to be represented no matter what area of the sector. For example, if there is the idea of there are minorities, whether you're in a cultural diversity population, or if you're in the LGBTQ community, or if you're in the the racial diversity community, or are people with disabilities that fall into those categories too. We need to be mindful that people with disabilities come in all unique shapes and forms and unique identities, and they also need to be included as well. And so inclusion is in the realm of like an action. It's the idea of the act of, we are including people like you and I in discussion. For example, in media or in TV, people are often, like organizations, for example, people are often doing decisions. They're often acting on behalf of us, yet they're not including people with disabilities in those discussions. Or politicians, for example, they're not leading as if we're supposed to be the ones leading because we know our community well rather than them acting on for our behalf, if you know what I'm trying to say.
Absolutely. And I'm also curious to get you to finish this sentence for me.
Okay.
What do you think it'll take to finally include everyone in society? What do you think your vision is? What will be defined when we finally establish full inclusion of people with disabilities?
Great question. And the it's not really a question, it's more like a statement. And I think the idea is my mission in life, and I still have this fighting mission. And this mission is to increase the quality of life where growth happens, to increase opportunities, to gain access to meaningful services where all people with disabilities, including disabled veterans and other subpopulations, are, having these abundant opportunities. And so it's where growth happens, opportunities are increased, and gain full access to services. That's where you increase the quality of life. So really, that's the idea of establishing that full acceptance and full inclusion where all people with disabilities are included. So it's really the idea of having every door and window of opportunity. So hopefully that gives you the idea. Because today,
Yeah,
not
go
every
ahead.
door is open.
You're certainly right about that. Yeah. My next question, just circling back to employment for just a second, what would be your message to the business community and those in hiring positions about the importance of hiring people with disabilities?
Well, I'd say this no matter if you're small, big, or just a medium-sized businesses or enterprise, think about your return on investment, the ROI. It's an investment worth taking, because no matter, and it's said so many times, no matter who you bring on, it will be a journey, but it will be a journey worth investing and taking, because the people you bring on is a joy. Um, they're the ones that are committed, they're compassionate, they're hardworking, they take it as part of their life. And see here, for example, I know the founder from almost 10 plus years. She's given me the opportunity prior to even getting a degree last year. I got my degree in July, got hired in January of last year. She took a risk on me, but it was an investment because she knew where my heart and passion was. And she invested in me, and look where we are today. We're growing ever before. So it's because of that investment.
And I also want to follow up with a question about innovation, because when people ask me about employment equity and inclusion, I always tell them that it's a chance for business leaders to gain a competitive edge over the competition, because it allows them to approach business solutions and solve problems in a more innovative way when they hire people with disabilities. I wonder your thoughts on that line of thinking as well.
Well, every business is always trying to find a competitive edge. And we always have to think of innovative ways and innovative measures. There's a gentleman who developed a program that I think it was called the Autism at Work Initiative, and that was through SAP. And that program, and now he is sharing it with other big enterprises and incorporating that model of sharing. And what I like about that is the competitive edge of including a segment of the population where they have these benefit and skills and abilities, and tailoring their population and figuring out the areas of their business where they can really maximize it to grow their business and perfect. And that investment was worth it. For example, Randy Lewis of and what I mean by then, meaning he was the former executive of Walgreens. He had a son with disabilities. He oversaw the distribution centers of Walgreens, and he knew that many people with disabilities were lacking jobs. So distribution centers had a lot of noise. So what he thought was deaf and hard of hearing individuals needed to be incorporated in that position, and stores needed to somehow find placement. So he figured out a way to maneuver. So it's just thinking innovative and outside of the box of innovative measures, working with your partners, working with stakeholders, and learning and educating yourself and being curious. The idea of curiosity. If you don't know something, ask. And a lot of people are afraid, but I always say just ask, be curious, and but I like that question, because today's age, especially in the digital world, we're constantly tackling hurdles. We have to be innovative. We have to think outside of the box, and we're constantly relying on the digital age, and communication is key. So hopefully that helps.
Yeah, and I'm also wanting your opinion on what are you most encouraged by the elimination of barriers for people with disabilities, and what do you think more work still needs to be done as well?
So the sub-minimum wage is one of them, which is here in the U.S. And sub-minimum wage, for some that don't know that, is more like a federal law that allows states and federal contractors that pay people within sort of a contract. It's like a factory kind of position where they're doing minimal work, and I do realize that a tiny section of the population, it gives them meaning and value to do certain work, but not all. But there are certain placements where people that are perfectly capable of doing a little bit more, or can advance other more opportunities, to more bigger and advanced opportunities, and gainful opportunities, or gainful skills, functional skills per se. There's a lack of, and the reason, and I also say that is, it also prevents people from gaining into independence and inclusion to other activities too. So there's that. There's also independence of housing with state-supported living centers. I think we need to go to the nether age of transitional housing and community-based options. For me, in Texas, we still have several state-supported living centers, and I'm advocating for more different age, new age, not the 50 years ago where people don't have adequate amenities and supportive measures, and there's still long ways to go in those things. And I think that policies and procedures and also factors into who we elect in office. In the US, we are in election season, and I always tell people it's important who you vote for, uh, and always matter on voting on policies that affect everybody. And if you care about disability rights and policy in this area, there's a lot of areas that affect, little tiny areas that affect the quality of life for our population.
Yeah, certainly voting is very, very important. And I think, especially on that side of the border, it's more critical than ever. So I appreciate you bringing up the fact that people need to vote. And I need now to pivot to your role at Sea here. I know that you're the director of diversity and accessibility at Sea here, which is a technical company that helps people hear better. So could you tell me about what you do at Sea here and how you're using that platform to promote accessibility and inclusion?
Well, see here, just so you know, it created a new file format that embeds sound directly inside an image, which is a single file format. And in this single file format, it's a stilled image or a short video that also includes sound or audio, and then text description, all text that is available for visually impaired, as well as metadata for developers, and in a single file. And it's accessible for people like that are deaf and hard of hearing and visually impaired, but on the web. And what I like about this new file format is the idea that we are caring about a new way to interact and engage with the internet. It's all about the social interaction. You know, today, or this day and age of this year, we are relying on internet more than before. And, you know, me, I'll be honest with you, and I don't know if you are struggling with this too. It took a good several weeks for me to really get used to technology every day, working every day, communicating with people, because I'm a people person. I love people, and but I still managed it. And so, but my role, I focused on helping my team understand the laws, um, being proactive of our product and development teams, focused on the ideation, creating new features that are enhancing, like text to speech, speech to text, that we're working to integrate to enhance the features for CHIF, which is the name of the file. We're also working on ASL, which is the American Sign Language. We're working other accessible, innovative features that will accessibly reach other disabilities. But we're also looking at innovative collaborative partners. We've got other partners that we're working with in other industries. You know, I'm involved in policy. I'm also involved in nonprofits, social good. So I'm in multiple tiers in my role. And I pretty much work all day, every day in my role. It's a lot of fun. I'll be honest with you. It's a lot of fun. It's a hectic journey because there's a lot of things changing, and it's rapidly changing, and you have to be in the know. And I think the climate, you have to somehow, you know, be on top of things. But emotionally, socially, and physically, I couldn't be more happier. And I encourage everybody to check it out and let me know what you think. And I'd be happy to show you and anybody else what it looks like.
Absolutely, and I commend you for the good work that you do for here and your advocacy work for the greater cause. In your last answer, you piqued my interest, so I'm going to follow up with this question. Certainly, you had brought up the fact of social inclusion for people with disabilities, and certainly throughout this pandemic, social recreational opportunities and the opportunities to interact with people, because just like you, I'm a people person, so adjusting to having to always be inside and communicate through technology has been an adjustment. So I'm wondering your perspective on the idea of social inclusion and interaction for people with disabilities during the age of coronavirus.
Um, you know, this is a very difficult question because everybody is different. Um, you know, uh, I always say it's the biggest thing is really having a support system.
I
Um,
agree with
you
that.
know,
Yeah,
um, it's really uh, Dallas is having diverse types of weather. We call it bipolar weather, and I say bipolar weather makes it difficult for me because I'm a social person, and bipolar weather also affects my emotions too. And so being infected in my own home with bipolar weather affects my emotions a whole lot of great things. So I tend to be moody. But at the same time, but I can tell you that people need to have a support system, not just us, the general population too. I know that businesses are struggling too. And I also see that another area is that we all need to communicate better. We need to communicate better. We need to figure out a way to positively interact better. We need to be kind. Um, you know, we don't need to be harsh in a lot of ways. We don't need to attack each other. Um, we need to find ways to um, take a break. Um, and we also need to figure out ways to interact, even if it's public, even if it's in a safe distance, however that may be. But a support system is important, whether it's in person or whether it's in virtually. I just think whatever you decide, I think we all need to be there for each other.
absolutely. And my final question for you is, what do you think able-bodied or our able-bodied counterparts can do to support or enhance their support of people with disabilities?
Yeah, that's a good question. Do not reinvent the wheel. Um, Always invest in people like us. Invest in you. Um, Invest in other people that are already trying to grow and um, trying to impact other communities. Um, Focus on envisioning and impacting, you know, focus on collaboration, focus on communities that are helping their communities, focus on projects that are innovative, that are advancing their areas, um, focus on existing platforms and policies and developments. If you already have an existing platform, help them and collaborate, merge in some way. Um, because reality is, I see too many communities building the same things, and yet they're competing. We cannot be competing. We're working together for the same purposes, um, and we're one community, one nation, or one globe. We all need to work together in one shape or form. Um, but at the same time, I think the idea is, if you have a new innovative approach, new idea, and but and nobody's doing it, make sure that you're not selfish, focus on the collaborative approach, and bring everybody with you. So that's all I have to say.
Fantastic, Dylan. I want to thank you for spending a few minutes with me to talk about diversity and inclusion for individuals with disabilities. I really enjoyed our conversation and want to thank you for your time this morning. Thanks so much for being here.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Fantastic, Dylan. We're done, buddy.